February 19th, 1945. 9:02 hours. The southeast shore of Iwo Jima. I am standing, in my mind, at the edge of a beach that does not behave like a beach. The sand is not sand at all, but crushed volcanic glassblack, dry, unstable. Every step sinks and slides. Nothing is firm. Nothing offers cover. The air already carries cordite and sulfur, and the sky above is low and colorless, flattened by overcast and drifting smoke. Men of the United States Marine Corps are still coming ashore. Others are already lying motionless where they fell. The Japanese defenses have not been silenced. They have barely revealed themselves. It is here, in these first minutes, that an object appears which should not exist in an infantry assault. I note it immediately because it does not match doctrine, inventory, or expectation. A machine gun, too light, too fast. Wrong in its proportions, cradled by a single Marine who is moving forward when no one else can. At a glance, it looks improvised. At a second glance, it looks dangerous. By the standards of Allied planners, it is. The weapon's lineage is not from Springfield or Hartford. It was never meant to be carried across ash or fired prone behind a shallow depression. It was designed to fire in cold air at altitude, mounted in the wing of an aircraft moving hundreds of miles per hour. And yet, on this beach, it is firing. I record the time because timing matters on Iwo Jima. Everything that follows depends on minutes, yards, and the sound of guns revealing themselves for a fraction of a second. At 9:04, the 1st Marine machine gun crews attempt to establish fire. Their weapons are doctrinally correct. Browning M1919A4S, belt-fed, air-cooled, reliable. They are also heavy, 30 pounds without ammunition, more with tripod and spare barrels. The problem becomes apparent immediately. These guns are defensive weapons, being forced into an assault role. Crews advance. They stop, they deploy, they fire, then they must be broken down again. In the time it takes to do that, the Japanese adjust their fires. The Japanese have prepared for this for months. Their defenses are not linear. They are layered, connected, mutually supporting. Pillboxes are not isolated. They are nodes. When one opens fire, others remain silent. When one is suppressed, another opens from a different angle. The beach is a grid, and every square has been measured. I watch Marines attempt to move forward and fail. I watch casualties accumulate, not in dramatic charges, but in short, abortive efforts to gain 10 yards, then 5, then none, and then I see the other gun. It is not mounted on a tripod. There is no crew. One man carries it alone, moving upright, awkwardly balanced by a wooden stock that does not quite fit. The feed box is smaller than regulation. The barrel is thinner. There is no flash hider. When it fires, it does not chatter. It screams. The rate of fire is unmistakable. This is not 400 rounds per minute. This is more than 1,000 . It draws attention immediately, from both sides. I note this because reaction is as important as effect. Nearby Marines turn their heads. Some instinctively duck, expecting the weapon to fail, to detonate, to injure its operator. This is not an unfounded fear. Aircraft machine guns are not built to be fired this way. Their metallurgy assumes airflow. Their tolerances assume short bursts. Their mounts assume stability. This one has none of that. The man carrying it is a corporal, 23 years old, a toolmaker by trade. His name, at this moment, is not yet significant to the men around him. It will be later. The weapon has a name as well, though it is not official. It is a nickname, spoken quietly in Hawaii months earlier, when it was first assembled in a maintenance shed after hours, using scavenged parts and borrowed tools. The stinger. I am careful here not to romanticize the moment. There is no flourish, no speech. The corporal does not announce himself. He simply stands, deliberately, in a place where standing is lethal. He does this for a reason. The Japanese have trained their gunners well. They do not fire continuously. They wait for movement. They wait for density. They wait for confidence. On this beach, confidence is rare. The corporal exposes himself to provoke it. At 9:06, it works. A muzzle flash appears 70 yards to the northwest. It lasts less than a second, but it is enough. The corporal swings the weapon, braces the stock into his shoulder, and depresses a trigger that did not come from any armory catalog. The sound changes. Everything. This is not suppressive fire in the traditional sense. This is saturation. The volume of rounds striking volcanic sand, rock, and reinforced concrete overwhelms the position, not through accuracy, but through inevitability. The firing slit disappears behind dust and fragments. The gun inside falls silent. I observe Marines nearby begin to move, not because they have been ordered to, but because the moment exists. The Japanese position has been forced into submission by something it cannot outweight. This is the first operational demonstration of a weapon that was never tested, never approved, and never meant to exist. To understand why it works here, one must understand why it should not. The gun's heart is an M2.30 caliber aircraft machine gun. It was designed for aerial combat, for flexible mounts in bombers and fixed mounts in fighters. Its virtues are weight and rate of fire. Its defects in a ground roll are numerous and well understood by ordnance officers. There is no quick change barrel. Overheating is not a theoretical risk. It is guaranteed. The feed mechanism is sensitive. The recoil impulse is sharp. Firing it continuously, unsupported, is mechanically abusive. And yet, on Iwo Jima, abuse is precisely what is required. The standard infantry machine gun is built to last. The Stinger is built to act. I note the corporal's movements as he advances. He does not linger. He fires in bursts, measured not in doctrine, but in seconds the time it takes to empty a 100-round box. He does not wait for confirmation. He does not check his work. He assumes effect and moves. This matters because the Japanese defenses rely on recovery. Suppress, then withdraw through tunnels, then reappear elsewhere. The Stinger interrupts this rhythm. When it fires, positions do not have time to reconstitute at 9:10. The corporal runs out of ammunition. This is the weapon's second great flaw. Its appetite is extreme. What it achieves in seconds consumes logistics at an alarming rate. 100 rounds vanish almost instantly. The weapon becomes a weight. I watch the corporal turn and run back toward the wwii. This too is doctrinally unsound. Ammunition carriers move forward, not gunners backward. But doctrine has already failed here. The corporal understands the arithmetic. The gun is useless without ammunition. The platoon is immobile without the gun. He runs 200 yards under intermittent fire, reaches the supply point, collects ammunition, and returns. He does not stop when he encounters a wounded Marine. He lifts him and carries him as well. This pattern repeats itself, not once, but again and again. Each trip adds distance. Each return brings both ammunition and another wounded man removed from the field by mid-morning. The beach behind him has changed. Casualties are no longer clustered at the water's edge. They are moving inland, slowly, unevenly, but decisively. Gaps appear in the Japanese fire plan. Pillboxes that once overlapped now sit silent. I record the reactions of other Marines. Some regard the weapon with awe, others with suspicion. A machine gun firing at that rate from a thin barrel so close to the operator's body seems reckless. There are muttered remarks. Someone predicts it will fail catastrophically. They are not wrong. By late morning, the barrel shows discoloration. The wooden stock chars. The trigger mechanism improvised from scrap begins to behave unpredictably. Bursts shorten, the feed stiffens, and still it fires. I note one moment in particular. The corporal removes his boots. This is not symbolic. It is practical. The volcanic ash destroys souls. Bare feet find traction where rubber fails. The decision is calculated, not dramatic. He sheds weight. He moves faster. The beach, already hostile, now abrades skin and opens wounds. Blood mixes with ash. There is no pause to address it. At this stage, I consider the weapon's psychological effect not on the enemy, but on Allied officers observing from forward positions. This is where the title becomes relevant. The gun terrifies not because it is enemy fire, but because it defies control. Weapons that exist outside the supply system frighten commanders. They cannot be replaced. They cannot be standardized. They cannot be predicted. If they fail spectacularly. And yet, results are undeniable. Positions that resisted naval gunfire fall silent under sustained bursts. Bunkers survive near misses from bombs but succumb to concentrated fire through firing slits. Japanese gunners, accustomed to waiting out barrages, find themselves overwhelmed in seconds by early afternoon. The corporal's platoon has advanced hundreds of yards. Casualties continue, but movement continues with them. This is the difference. The Stinger is struck by enemy fire more than once. Each time, it is recovered. Each time, it is coaxed back into function. The weapon becomes less reliable, less accurate, slower, but even degraded, it outperforms standard infantry weapons in this specific environment. I observed the end of the first day with care. By nightfall, the corporal is exhausted, wounded, barefoot, and still functional. The weapon is nearly destroyed. It has no doctrinal future. It will not be adopted. It will not be refined. It does not need to be. The following days continue without it in the same capacity. The island is taken not by improvisation alone, but by attrition, coordination, and overwhelming force. Flamethrowers, demolitions, tanks adapted with steel explosions all play their part. But the opening breach mattered. When I assess the historical record, I find no evidence that the Stinger changed the outcome of the battle in strategic terms. 6 such weapons existed. Most were destroyed. None survived the war. What it changed was time. And time, on Iwo Jima, equated directly to lives. The weapon's legacy is quiet. It appears in after-action reports obliquely. It is mentioned without enthusiasm by ordnance officers. It survives primarily in testimony, in memory, and in a Medal of Honor citation that refers only to a personally improvised aircraft-type weapon. That restraint is appropriate. Improvisation is not a model for procurement, but it is a reminder. On that beach, at that hour, the rules did not apply cleanly. A weapon built for the sky found purpose in ash. It frightened those who saw it because it represented risk without precedent. And yet, it worked when nothing else did. I note, finally, the silence that followed. After the firing stopped, after the gun cooled and failed, after the beach fell quiet in places where it had never been quiet before. Silence, on Iwo Jima, was not peace. It was simply the absence of immediate death that was enough. If you loved this story and want more history that shocks, inspires, and motivates, subscribe to Rising Warfare, like this video, and explore the incredible tales we uncover. More amazing content is coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.